welcome to Behind the ABA Talk podcast, where we have heart to heart conversations with ABA experts, thought leaders, and changemakers. Each episode unpacks the stories, insights, and behind the scenes realities that shaped our experts' professional journeys. I'm your host, Lisa Gurdon, founder of Ellis Gurdon Consulting. I'm thrilled to partner with Behavior Live co founder and WIBA executive director Janet Lund to launch a special podcast series highlighting some of the amazing speakers and innovative talks that will be shared at the upcoming Women Behaving Boldly conference. Hi, Janet. Thank you so
Hi,
much for being
Lisa.
here.
I'm so happy to be here, my friend. Thank you for having me. This has been so fun and spending time with you and getting to know these incredible women that are
Absolutely.
going to be teaching us so much in January. What a way to start the year,
Oh,
right?
for sure. I cannot wait for that conference. Can you tell us about the conference, please?
Sure. If your listeners haven't heard, WIBA stands for Women in Behavior Analysis, and we are a conference that has been in existence since 2017. We have an annual conference every July, and the purpose of WIBA is to mentor, celebrate, empower women in the field of behavior analysis. And one of the things we decided to do a couple of years ago, we just felt like once a year wasn't enough. So we decided to think, how could we do something mid-year where we can get our community together and learn and be empowered? And that's where Women Behaving Boldly came. And it's a virtual conference, so there's no travel involved. And this year, it's January 15th and 16th. We have 2 days. We have 2 tracks, 22 speakers of the caliber that you don't find everywhere. I'm so impressed with the women that said yes and so grateful. And today's guest is one of those amazing women. So it's a wonderful conference, and I hope your listeners will consider checking us out. You can find out more information at thewiba.com. That's THEWIBA.com.
Wonderful. And I think we have a discount code that
Oh,
we
we
will
do.
share, yes, at the end of the podcast. For those of you who would like a discount on an already highly discounted
Oh,
conference, what you get is quite incredible. And not only are you getting so many CEUs, but the CEUs are amazing, uh, innovative, incredible women doing just really help working to raise the bar for all of us,
yes.
really. And I am so excited today to introduce Kathy Fox. And Kathy is a BCBA and principal and assistant director at Morningside Academy, an internationally recognized school supporting students with learning disabilities. With a background in psychology and education, Kathy leads academic programming and supports teacher development both within the school and through the Morningside Teachers Academy. Her work focuses on evidence based instruction that helps students accelerate learning, build confidence, and achieve meaningful outcomes. Kathy brings a thoughtful, student centered approach to leadership and a deep commitment to effective teaching and learning. At the Women Behaving Boldly conference, Kathy will discuss the benefits of reading, what is lost when reading behavior deteriorates, what we stand to gain from building reading skills across settings, and how leaders can shape the communities they lead to enthusiastically embrace reading and its benefits. What an important topic, and I can't wait to listen. Welcome, Kathy, to the podcast.
No, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you both today.
Amazing. So, tell us about your professional journey. You've done so many things, and tell us about that. Like, how'd you get here?
So it started for me back in undergrad when I was in a really basic psychology class. I first learned about B.F. Skinner, and I had a professor who talked about kind of emerging behavior analytic work in terms of helping kids with autism. And I say, it makes me sound really old, but before
No.
BCBAs, before all of these things were happening.
Mhm.
And
We
it
were
felt
there
very
too,
We were
Kathy.
there
We
with
were
you,
yeah,
there
Kathy.
too.
We were there, buddy. It's a club.
hard
We
to
were there.
imagine that world now, but I just found it very
Yeah.
interesting. I was in school at the time. I really thought I was going to be a high school Spanish teacher. And I was taking this
Oh,
class and I thought,
Cool.
wow, that sounds cool. Just a really, I remember he had videos and some, just really something just piqued my interest. And then at the end of another class, he talked to us about a new program in Columbus. I was at the Ohio State University at the time. And he was like, hey, there's these job opportunities that would be perfect for students. And I got my first job as, what would now be kind of an RBT position working with a 4-year-old who had autism, helping build language. Feeding skills is another thing we worked on. And it was all sort of random in that way. So I did that for several years through undergrad, kind of wanted to work a little bit before grad school, before I thought of, what I wanted to do permanently. But I loved it. I did it full time. I ended up having several clients. In the old school days, driving around to everybody's house, going into the community. And I loved every second of it. And I really felt like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. And
You
then,
were hooked.
yes, it was so fun. I
it
mean,
was so
I
fun.
think I talk about it all the time. There's nothing like teaching somebody to do something and seeing it applied successfully.
Yes.
I don't know. I've never found anybody or anything else that really matches that high. It's
Mm-mm.
cool. Uh,
Yes. I started the same way, Kathy, and
really?
yes, absolutely. In undergrad, same
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, that's so
Um,
cool.
and I was doing the same kind of work, and it was a lot of schlepping around. And oh my gosh, I loved every minute of it. And all those small, steps were just kept me going, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I was hooked also. That's what got me too. I was like, well, and I was a dance major, so I was going to be I was
Oh,
going to go
wow.
into
A big
dance
pivot.
therapy. Yeah, same as you, Spanish teacher to
Yeah.
behavior analyst, it is a pivot, but it doesn't feel like that, right? When you're like making
Yeah.
that shift, it's just like, oh, this is what I'm meant to
This is what I'm
do.
supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
guys, it's
exactly.
funny. Reinforcement works that
I
way,
know,
huh?
right? Yeah, it's funny because
Right?
I talk about that so much, and I'm sure you do too. But when I'm working with teachers, we have to get them to see the benefits of what they're doing, or otherwise,
Yes.
why would you do it? That was another big sell for me.
Yes.
So while I was working in home programs, Dr. Morton Hoglund was starting a school in Columbus, and he came to observe one of my in-home clients. His parents were thinking about sending him to that school, and I joke now that he kind of poached me. He was selling, he talked to me a little bit. I was thinking about going back to grad school and deciding whether or not to move to Chicago to go to the Chicago school or do an online program, which again, this was back in the days where that was very strange. Now everybody does so many online programs, but
Yes.
this is a long time ago. And it was a really big deal to even consider doing school online at that time. And I decided to go online and work at this school. He really sold me on it. I was like, I'll have set hours. He had a lot of, uh, big ideas for this school. And I thought, I'm going to do that. And so I started working there. And I don't know if you know Dr. Hoglund. He's got a big personality and he really gets things done. And one of the things that he successfully did was convince Kent Johnson at Morningside to work with him. If you know about Morningside, Morningside is not a school that serves kids with intense behavior needs or severe special needs or anything. But Dr. Hoglund felt very firmly that everyone deserves an effective education, and he thought it could be done at this school for kids with severe behavior needs and really high language needs. And so we were able to train with Morningside consultants to bring that work to this different population. And as we were doing that, I slowly started working for Morningside as an MTA consultant for Morningside Teachers Academy. Working again, my main gig with Morningside Teachers Academy for years has been with a big residential facility. So I've done that work for a long time. And then after, gosh, I think I had been at Hoglund Learning Center for maybe 9 or 10 years. And, Dr. Hoglund decided he was, sort of looking toward retirement, and HLC was sold to a big kind of private equity firm, which, is not new in this field at all. That's kind of happening everywhere. And, things as they do change a whole lot. You go from a really small-ish organization to this big conglomerate, things change. And I started thinking, oh, I maybe want to do something else. And I reached out to Andrew Kita, who was the incoming executive director at Morningside, who I had worked with at Hagen Learning Center. We had worked together through all this time at Morningside. And I just asked about maybe coming out to Seattle for a summer. I said, I need a reset. I need to really get back into the
Yeah.
thick of things. And Morningside has this big summer program. And when I texted him initially, I didn't say it was for me. I just said, "Hey, is that summer thing still open?" And he said, "For who?" And I said, "Oh, it's me. I'm leaving HLC." And I remember that he said something via text message, like maybe, "Oh, let's set up a Zoom for tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, old man, like, what are you doing? Why do we need to? Can you tell me or not?" And that's when he let the principal job was actually open. He was like, "So if you would move here, you should just move here." And
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
That's a big
and then I
move.
just
That's
I
a big move.
That's a
yeah,
big
it was
move.
a huge move. It's been cool, and it was, one of the best decisions I ever made. But especially now that I'm a few years out from it, I really did just decide to move across the country in my
Yeah.
40s in about 20 minutes time. Um, so
Good
it's,
for
When
you.
you know, I guess, right?
yeah, and it's really been great. Morningside is such a wonderful place to work. I feel very lucky every day to have a job that is such a good fit for me, honestly, and so fun. I work with such amazing people. We get to do such cool stuff. I just can't even believe it sometimes. It's really great. And Seattle has ended up, I'd spent a lot of time here. I'd been at Morningside for training and so forth. And it's not like a lot of moves. I know people here from my time at Morningside and Andrew and his family. But yeah, I made the decision and I moved 3 months later at the end of the school year. And I haven't looked back. It's been wonderful.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Well, what a place to go to. Seattle's such a cool city, and
Yeah.
Morningside truly is like
Yeah.
state of the art when it comes to the work that you're doing there and the reputation. And so, I feel like you can pat yourself on the back of
Thank
like,
you.
I make good decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's certainly feeling that way. I feel very lucky. Yeah.
Um, I want to hear about the Teachers Academy,
Sure.
but before we do, when you think about these shifts that you made, right, big sort of changes,
Yeah.
and you look back, what would you tell yourself? Like, because I'm sure you were nervous, and there was all these things, and it's so big. And what would you tell yourself
Yeah.
back then?
I think one of the things when I think back, I think about how narrow my view of behavior science was initially. And I
Mm,
think probably a lot of us can experience that. I think so many people that I know in the field were introduced to the science through this lens of some sort of treatment for autism. And it's wonderful, right, to work in that field and to help kids learn. And I think what I would tell myself is to remain open. I remember so many times early in my career being like, well, this is nuts. Even my first time at Morningside, my first summer training, which is through Morningside Teachers Academy. It's a big, it's called Morningside Summer Institute every summer in Seattle, where teachers from all over the world come to learn how to do this
Oh,
work.
so cool.
oh,
Yeah.
so
And
great.
so I was out here for the first few days and I was like, wow, I've been doing everything wrong. It's very classroom centered. We're teaching teachers how to teach in classrooms. And I had mostly worked one-on-one until my time at the school in Columbus. And I remember my first probably 3, maybe 4 days of this training at Morningside Summer Institute. I went back to my hotel room and cried because I was like, I've been doing everything wrong. And
Oh,
you're a teacher, you just want to do the right thing. You want
Yeah.
to be doing the best thing for your kids. And I remember my boss at the time, Samantha, we were sharing a hotel room and she was like, you're fine. You're out here. You came out here for 2 weeks, get it together. Kind of, I just had a really emotional moment, but she really helped me shift that and, show up the next day. Cause it's a really intense experience too. You're in training all day. Um, and I just flipped that switch, like be open to it. They were talking about these behavior principles in ways that I hadn't heard them discussed before. I'm learning so much and I was feeling overwhelmed. And when I look back, I'm just really grateful that I was able to make that shift while I was out here and be like, oh, there is this whole world. And I think it's really when my worldview shifted to be more, on a foundation of behavior science. I think certainly now,
Mhm.
15 years later, that's how I see the world. But I would definitely go back and tell myself to remain open and, just
Yes.
because you don't know something yet, don't panic. There's this whole world. There's a million things you don't know, and it's really cool to learn them as you go.
I
Don't you
love
think,
that.
Kathy? I love that. And to both of you, like I think about the further I get along in my career. Like I remember when I got my PhD, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to know everything, and I know nothing. Like I know stuff, but I don't feel I know what I should know, right? Like I'm the expert. And for people who can't see me, I'm putting expert in quotes. Like I'm the expert in the room now. And I
Yeah.
feel like when we learn about our science, the more you know, the more questions that come up for
Yes.
you. I don't
Yeah,
know if that's just a me thing, but it's like, well,
absolutely.
wait, I
Yes.
don't know that.
Yeah. All day, every day, that happens to
Uh,
me. And I think
Right?
it's a
Me
great
too.
feeling. And I think that's what I love that, I've learned to embrace that
yeah.
feeling. Wow, I don't know that yet. What can I do to get that knowledge and to apply it to my work? Um, it's just really fun. I think it makes the job
Yeah.
that much more engaging, and
Hmm.
it makes me ready to get up and go to work every day. I know I'm going to learn something. I know I'm going to help
Yeah.
somebody else learn something, and it really makes it worth it.
And I
Yes.
think that posture of humility, right? Going in, knowing, like approaching things with open curiosity and humility is just it's such a powerful position to approach life with, right? So that idea of I'm going to learn from my students, I'm going to learn from the staff that I supervise, I'm going to learn from the parents, like all of those
Yeah.
people and circumstances can teach us something. And I just love, Kathy, something you said when you were talking about this teacher academy, the way Morningside not only does what it does so beautifully for the students who have the privilege of living in Seattle, right? Like they're
Yeah,
there, they can go to Morningside, but the world is a very big place.
right.
And what you're doing at Morningside is this commitment not only to your students, but truly trying to think changing how the world works through education, and how can we take a teacher that then is a leverage point to go out to schools all over the country. And I mean, truly making a difference across the country. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah. And I think, I mentioned it earlier. I did not know Kent Johnson when Dr. Hoagland was trying to convince him to come work with us at HLC in Columbus. And I think back to that, and now I see Kent all the time, and I'm like, thank goodness you did it. I think it's such a cool thing that he also, I've learned from people like him too, to have that openness of, Kent will be the first to tell you he is not cut out to work with a really intense population. That's not his jam at all. But he loved that we were, and he agrees everybody deserves an effective education. And so he taught us how to do it. And then we went and did it. And eventually Kent came out to HLC. I think we were probably 3 years into working with Morningside. I can't remember, maybe 4. And he was a true skeptic the whole time. And it's one of my favorite memories of him coming out and him just, kind of standing in this big training room we had, being like, "You guys are doing it." And we were like, "Yes, I told you." And it was just a really cool moment to take something that had not been quote unquote meant for these kids and do it and get them reading, get them doing math, things that people never thought they would do. And that's all because we learned it not just coming to the Summer Institute, but we had consultants from Morningside that came out to the school, which is, how that whole system works. We had Deb Brown and Bill Helsel, who I'm incredibly grateful for every day. They taught us to do it. And I think that work in a lot of ways is still continuing at HLC, even though Andrew and I aren't there anymore. It's been really, really cool to see.
It's that innovation, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we need to keep doing in our field. And that's what I love so much about this podcast and going to conferences and just hearing about the ways in which people are applying our science
Yeah.
in new context and with new individuals and in new ways. And that's so exciting. And that's how I think, I don't know, it continues to inspire me, 25 years in or whatever it is, and
Ah,
I don't feel like I've had enough. Like I'm just getting
great.
started. Like I want to
Right.
Yes.
learn all of these things, and I have those moments when I'm supervising students aspiring behavior analyst, and I'm their supervisor. I should know, and I teach, right? And I should know all these things. And the truth is, like, I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And so I just model. I feel good to model. I
Yep.
don't know that. Let's look it up. Let's go grab pick
Yeah.
a book. Let's go take a look. Let's look that up. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe you know that could better because you've learned this more recently than
Yes,
I have. So you tell me what you've learned. And so it's that process. And
I
then
love that.
so I don't know. I love that whole process, and I'd love to hear more about the Teachers Academy. Like, how do you get involved? How do you send teachers there? How does it work?
Yeah, so Morningside Teachers Academy is something, it's really broad. It starts with the Morningside Summer Institute that I think has been happening since, I don't know the exact date. I want to say mid 80s. Morningside's
Oh
been
my
around since
gosh,
1980.
so
And
cool.
we put on a 2 or 3 week workshop every summer. It's always 3 weeks, but mostly the third week is just graduate students who stay. So a lot of people come for 2 weeks. You come to Seattle, you spend half of the day in lectures with, our Morningside experts. So we have, it's mostly Kent Johnson, Andrew Kita, and Andrew Bola who teach
Wow.
during that time.
Fantastic.
And then you spend your
Hmm.
part of your time in the Morningside classrooms applying what you learned. So we have a full, really robust summer school program going during the month of July. Those are kids that are there to, make some gains in the summer, but we also use that time for everyone who's here for the Institute to apply what they're doing. And so they get real experience with coaching from all of us in the classroom that they can take back to wherever they're working. And we get a really interesting kind of variety of people. Like I said, graduate students, both in education and behavior analysis, pretty common. We get BCBAs who are running clinics. We get a lot of teachers. And it's just really, it's open to anyone, whoever wants to learn about learning in with a behavior science foundation. It's open to that. And it's also really cool because you get to spend a few weeks in Seattle in the summer, which is the absolute best time to be here. I happen to love it year round, but summer in Seattle is unmatched. So
Hmm.
that you meet people who have similar goals from all over, and you make these connections. I was lucky enough. Dr. Hoagland sent me to do the Morningside Summer Institute 3 times, which is
Oh, cool.
every single time the best experience of my career. So I still have so many connections uh, from my time here doing that. And those people come back now. Some of them, Amy Evans, for instance, now works as a
Mm,
Morningside teacher consultant too. So that's, it's just such a big network. So you can come to that. And then outside of that, if you want to work with Morningside, sometimes people decide they need help with a certain academic area or maybe with just general uh, classroom growth. That depends what they have. People hear about us in the strangest ways. Sometimes I always love hearing those stories. A friend of a friend or a random aunt came to MSI in the 90s and told them about it. We get all those stories. And so once you get all set up, we go out to your setting and we train staff, we coach in your classrooms, we teach you how to coach in your classrooms or clinic, and it's really fun. It's, like I said, one of those things where you never get over how cool it is when somebody learns something
mm,
and you get
Absolutely.
to see them doing it. So currently we work with a big residential facility. We work with a kind of small public school system in Evanston, Wyoming, which is a really cool project.
yeah.
Andrew Kita, our executive director, works with schools in Iceland currently. So they've been in
Fun.
public schools in Iceland for a few years now. So yeah, we do it all. If you want to learn this, we'll come teach you. And we all learn a little something along the way.
So
So
powerful. Just so
great.
powerful.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's not only, having an impact locally and at your own school, but you guys have, figured out, really how to expand that, uh, that influence and those outcomes and bring all of the expertise you've developed all of these years all over the world. And, just having that vision and
Yeah.
that commitment to
Hmm.
doing that is unique. It's not something that everybody, like, everyone's good with where they are, and that's great too. And
Yeah.
what you're doing is that much more at Morningside. So
Well, and
congratulations,
I
it's
think,
really
thank
awesome.
you. I think Janet said there are kids who have the privilege of being here and having access to us. and everyone else outside of that deserves this too. And
Yeah.
we'll do whatever we can to get it to them. I think,
So
one
good.
of my favorite things about Morningside is that is such a main part, a big part of our mission is that we disseminate, we get this to people who need it. And, I think one of the things that I find a little bit funny is people will come out, I always say, you can come to Morningside. If you find yourself in Seattle for anything, just call me. I'll be there. I will show you around. You
Love
can come
that.
see it anytime. It's a true lab school, people in and out all the time. But I think one of the things that makes me laugh the most is people will come and they're like, well, it's a school. And I was like, it is. It's a real functioning school. We do these things, but people don't always recognize that part of it because you're a little bit more about the MTA things. You see us at conferences, you see us going into schools. And I think people are often surprised to learn that it's
Yeah.
just a small functioning school right here in Seattle too. And it's
So great.
normal school, everyday stuff.
So can I tell you something? It
Yeah.
just popped in my head, Kathy, that I don't know if you know this, but um, I early in my career, right after grad school, I worked at Aubrey Daniels International in OBM,
Oh,
and I got to teach a course, which was a week long kind of advanced performance management course. And Aubrey would come in and teach part of it, and he would always talk about Morningside Academy to these business leaders. And so I don't even know that when you talk about the influence of Morningside. Aubrey was so impressed with what Kent was doing and what Morningside, how they were teaching number one to fluency and what that meant. Aubrey, even in the class, had started talking to Kent about how do we do flashcards to get people like these are CEO and executives of companies that Aubrey was like, we got to work on fluency. How do we get these people
Ah,
doing it? And he talked about, and we had an article about Morningside Academy that we would give everybody. And so I just, when you think about Morningside's influence, it's not just teachers. You know, it is so impressive that Aubrey grabbed it and said, you know what? Business and industry leaders need to know
ah,
about this too. And so that got pushed out. And so I don't even know that that was something that
yeah.
Aubrey was kind of pushing and loving
Love
just because of how great Morningside is and the work that you do.
it's a cool story to hear. I have a cute Aubrey story too. When I met him for the first time, I happened to be with some other Morningside folks and introduced as a Morningside consultant at the time. And he said, oh, you work for Morningside? I said, yeah. And he said, wow, that's amazing. You got really lucky. He was like, I'm sure you work really hard. But he was like, he was like, you're so young, which also so nice of him. I was not that young and I really loved that. Um, and he was like, that is so awesome for you. You get to
Yep.
do, he's like, I don't know exactly what you're doing. You get to do some really cool, impactful stuff. And it was a really good moment. He was always so nice to me. And
Yep.
he
He
remembered
believed it
every time he
with
saw
everything.
me. Yeah, that's a really, really cool thing to hear. Thank you.
it's
Of course.
wonderful. So let's talk about the Women Behaving Boldly conference,
Yeah.
and your topic on reading. I'm just so interested to hear your inspiration for the talk and give us a little teaser of what we should expect when we hear your presentation.
Yeah. So, again, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to come and talk about something that I think is impactful and it's important to me. So I am a reader, have been since I was a kid. I've always loved reading. And actually, after grad school, those of you, you've done way more grad school than I have, you get really in the thick of grad school and some of your hobbies take a back seat while you're doing that. So in 2015, I was fresh done with my graduate classes and I decided to set a goal to get back into pleasure reading. I set a goal to read 50 books in the year 2015. And to keep myself accountable, I public posted it on Instagram. And,
Good
you know,
girl.
yes, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I got back into it. And it was really fun to, interact with people about the books I was reading. And I've always been somebody who reads a variety. I read nonfiction, fiction, all over the place, old books, new books. I don't discriminate when it comes to books. So it started something where I was getting recommendations from people and I was just really having a lot of fun interacting with it. And also becoming a reader again was really, really powerful. I loved it so much. And, this year, I've continued posting my books for 10 years on social media. 2025 was the 10th year, which I think is really, really fun. I don't know if I'll keep doing it in the same ways. I was thinking, it might be changed or time to change things up a little bit. But, I really, as an adult, again, with a changed worldview, where behavior science is at the foundation of how I view the world now, I really started to think about what reading is, behaviorally. What do we get from it? And at the time, I'm also becoming a teacher. I'm really learning about data in schools and what that looks like. And then, fast forward a few years, the pandemic hits and things change a whole lot.
Mm.
We have to access the world in different ways than we're used to. And that's a whole different set of behavior changes that I was thinking about. And then now in a post-pandemic world where we're starting to see what educational data look like, and then also just national reading data. I'm sure, especially around this time of the year, I think when people are talking about the books they read, that becomes kind of a thing that you see a lot. The most recent data we're seeing with people and their reading habits is that it's declining. The reading is declining. So there's a stat that's been flying around, in the internet the last couple of months. That's less than 50% of adults in this country have read one book, at least one book in the last year. Less than 50%. And
Oh,
I know,
no,
it's just,
no.
it
You're
seems
missing
crazy.
out.
I
If
know,
that's one of
right?
you listening, you're missing out. Read.
Yeah. Also, our reading scores are going down. The national reading scores, ever so slightly, are kind of on a downward trend. And that, I think the pandemic is certainly a factor in this, or at least a part of the discussion, in terms of what we know now. But also kids reading behavior. There's a stat with, I think it was 13-year-olds. There, the number of 13-year-olds who report reading at least a little every day, which when I was 13, I think everyone I know was reading books. We all went to the library.
Yeah.
We all talked about the books we were reading. We were reading the same books. The number of 13-year-olds who report that they're reading at least a little every day is going down. And at the same time, we are seeing the effects in society of people who maybe don't have as the reading skills necessary to access all the information to them. We're talking about the news, even something, you think about some of the more uh, common news sources are written at sixth grade levels, and not everybody has that. It's not very common to see that people have skills that allow them to access that everything they need to in their world. I just saw an interesting article the other day that was talking about medical information too, which is something
Mm.
I'm really preparing for this presentation. I hadn't thought about that as somebody who can pretty easily access everything that's put in front of me. Medical information, when you're reading about side effects and drug studies, when you're thinking about new medication, a lot of those, they come in at a Lexile score that's meant for high schoolers, and a solid portion of our population can't effectively read at that level. So the talk is about not just reading instruction, although I think there's a lot of people interested in the basics of that, so I will cover it. But what can we do to build reading? It's not as impossible as I think when people talk to me about it, it seems, so many
Mm-hmm.
people, when I'm at conferences, what people come up to me and say is like, oh, I love your book posts. I get books. I could never read that much. I said, well, you could. You can, and you don't have to read that much. Everybody reads a different amount. You can read at least one book a year, I promise you. We can start changing that. But my hope is that by talking about it and talking about it with that behavior science foundation, how can we build this into our communities? And something else that spurred it was Kent Johnson. Have either of you met Kent? Do you know him? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I have.
Kent is such a delightful person, and
Yeah.
just one of those people that you feel lucky to be around so much of the time. He is
Mm-hmm.
exactly who he is in every setting. So if you've met him, And one of the things that I really love about Morningside is that it is a reading community. We talk about reading all the time, not just instructionally, but what are we reading? This summer, we were leaving a party at Kent's house. He still has the Morningside parties. Like, the new parents come to Kent's house every year. We have
Oh,
a party in his backyard, which is
Wonderful.
amazing.
that's so nice.
But we were leaving, and I noticed that Kent has all these articles printed out on the shelf as you leave his house for you to take, like pamphlets, things that he wants you to read about. And, it's a lot of, at the time, especially in August, it was, politics, but also just things he finds interesting. And I thought, what a cool thing to do. Oh,
Hmm.
build that behavior. Like, do I want to read the things that Kent Johnson's reading? Absolutely. I adore him. It is,
Yes, me too. I'll read
yeah,
that.
I took one of everything he had printed out and I read it. It was, and then also Kent does this really adorable thing where whenever he comes to Morningside, he almost always has an article printed out for me that he wants me to read. He emails them to me too. But we do that with each other. And I think it's because Kent has set this example at Morningside. And it's a really good example of how you set the stage to get people reading. We also have several faculty members every year that participate in Seattle Public Library's book bingo program for adults. There's
Oh,
adult
so
summer book bingo.
fun.
And, our bingo cards are posted in the staff lounge. So what I really wanted to talk about is this idea that we do know how to build reading behavior and we can do it. And what do we gain when we do?
Okay, I love this so much. And I have to say, I feel like a slacker because I do have a list on my phone of the books that I read by year. And
I
while you
love
were talking, I went to see when you said 50. I'm right now reading my 22nd book, and I thought I was doing so great, but now I'm like, Janet, you have a lot of work to do.
No, 20 is so good. I saw this, a friend sent me this, a social media post, all of these things at the end of the year. And it was somebody being like, who reads 100 books a year? You're not doing anything. And I was like, maybe somebody who reads faster. I
Right.
do book bingo every summer. My friends and I we like to fill the whole card instead of just getting a bingo.
Of course you do.
I have that, and then I
You're a
read
behavior
color.
analyst.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it. Is like I live in Seattle too. It's dark here all winter. I read every night. Just the other day, I was like, oh, it's about time to go to bed. It was 7:30. I
Oh
was like,
my,
oh, I guess. So,
the dark is
everybody
so
has
hard.
different circumstances. And I think that's part of it too, is this idea that we celebrate it every time you
Yes.
read something.
Yeah.
One of my proudest moments just as a human is that my nieces and nephews will FaceTime me to tell me about a book they've read.
Oh,
Oh,
They're all
the
in
awesome.
Ohio.
best.
And I think it's
That's
so
the
powerful. I
best.
want them to be readers. They're 7 to almost 12. And so they're all
So
new-ish
great.
readers. And
That's
that's one of my
amazing.
proudest moments. And I don't care how many books they read, I care that they're reading. It's gotten me reading kids' books again so that I can
Hmm.
talk about them with them.
Yes.
Good
Um,
Yes.
job, Aunt. Good
yeah,
job.
thank you.
Yes. And I
Thank
love
you.
this idea of building this community value, right?
Yeah.
And behavior, where you really are reinforcing each other. And when you want to, affect change,
Hmm.
not just on an individual level, but more on a community level, and talking about a small community versus large community, it
Yeah.
really involves effort. It involves intentionality. It involves, accountability and just sharing and reinforcing one another on a regular basis, not just every
Right.
once in a while, right? And so I love that. I think for me, reading is part of my nighttime routine, and it
Hmm.
Hmm.
helps me shift out of my thinking brain into, my reading, into getting into someone else's life.
Yeah.
Like, get me out of
Hmm.
mine, please, for a minute.
Yep.
And just kind of allows my head to clear and really helps with sleeping. And so I think there's so much to say about that. And I will just share one more thing, is that I teach a personal behavior change course at Northeastern for
Oh,
undergraduate students, which is so
that's
fun.
really cool.
It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's a new course for me, and I've just really enjoyed it. And what's so interesting is several students chose as their behavior, they choose a behavior and they do a behavior change project
Uh-huh.
from start to finish. And several of them chose to read more at night in
Mm.
particular, and to engage with the reading. And I was so appreciative of, like, really that
I
they
love
figured that
that.
out, right? I know. And they did it. And they used behavioral technology
Yeah.
do that.
Hmm.
They set a goal. They took data. They analyze the data, right? And
Oh,
they put in the implemented antecedent interventions to make it more likely for them to engage in that behavior. I mean, and what a cool,
yeah.
application of our science, for ourselves and for each other, with reading behavior. So I am so appreciative
I
that you're
love that. I
Hmm.
think
yeah,
I think it's I hope that that's a turn in how people are seeing it. I think
I
so
hope so.
often in our field we think it has to be all work and no play. There's like are we really intervening on just, work skills or education skills, and reading certainly applies to all settings.
For
Hmm.
sure.
But there's some value in having, a leisure skill that has
Oh,
benefits. It's, it is
for
worth
sure.
taking what you know to apply to a leisure skill because it does enhance our lives in so many ways. And I think
Yes.
sometimes we forget that because we have a lot to do. It's true.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
true. But you can't
But
have that lot to do,
yeah,
take over everything else.
Hmm.
We just,
exactly.
it's going to leave
Right.
us with what at the end of the day? I mean, maybe with a strong career, but there's just
Yeah.
so much more to life, and all of that benefits one another, each other.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember early in my career, someone said, we first start young and we learn to read. And then the rest of our life, it flips and we read to learn, right? So
Yeah.
it's this
Oh,
Yeah.
this idea
interesting.
of
Yeah.
you learn to read, and then from then on, you're reading to learn, whatever it is, how to crochet, how to
Yeah.
woodwork, how to train your dog or your
Yeah.
dragon, I guess. But like just all those things I think is amazing. And so I have to, Kathy, I hope there are people listening that want me to ask this question, but I have to ask
Mhm.
before we go, unless it's part of your presentation, and then I'll wait.
Mhm.
Can you give us your top two
Yes.
or three books that you read this year? Because I'm
Yeah.
so curious.
You took
Sure.
that question right out from me. I was going to ask the same exact thing.
I'm sorry, buddy.
No, no, no.
No.
We're on the same wavelength, and I have my pen and paper ready here, to write it
So
down. Yes,
I
tell
have a
us.
couple that I think are going to be standouts for me. Morningside actually had a fundraiser with Barnes and Noble recently, and so I had to think we did all
Oh,
um,
so
Oh,
good.
good.
posts about, here are everybody's favorite books. You can also find Kent's favorite books from this year if you want to look that up. That's good.
Where
Um,
do we go to look that up for people who want to know?
Morningside Academy on
Okay,
Instagram. It should have,
perfect. Okay.
yeah. So there's
Okay, so
a
what are
couple.
yours?
I actually just finished a book last week that is not on my favorites that you'll find on Instagram, but it's called The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. You've
I
maybe seen
like
it. Did you read it too? Oh my gosh.
that. Oh,
I
it's so great.
I loved it so much. I told a funny story at work the other day how I was reading it at 7:30, and I was like, well, it's time to go to bed. I have to take the dog out, and my building has this like dog area on the roof, right? And I encountered a neighbor in the hallway, and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Oh, mascara all over my face because I had been reading The Correspondent. So I went out into the outside space, just not even thinking about it. This book had me weeping every time I read it. I loved it so much. I think everyone
Yep.
should read it.
I thought it was great too.
I know there's a little bit of recency to that, but it makes me so happy to hear that you loved it too.
Yes,
I think it's good.
loved it.
Everybody should read it. If you're getting a book gift from me, you should expect probably that one because that is where I decided to go with that. Another book that I've been recommending a lot that I think read either at the end of last year or at the beginning of this year is The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. You may have seen
Hmm.
he writes a lot for The Atlantic, and really does a lot of research on kids and the internet and cell phone and social media use.
Mm.
So I've been using that one a lot in work. Also giving it to my own family members and everyone I know, giving it to Morningside parents. It's a really good exploration into this new world that we live in. So many of us who are responsible for shaping kids' lives
Hmm.
did not grow
Yeah,
up in this world. And I think it's a really good bit of
absolutely.
information that he gives
Yes.
us. And then one more that I really, really loved is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I hope I'm
Yeah.
saying his name right. It was just such a beautifully written book. I learned after reading it that the author is a poet, which makes a lot of sense now, but it's a really interesting story with a little bit of a twist that I didn't see coming, which is something that really makes me love a book. When I can't figure out
Hmm.
the twist, I really, really like it. Or, whatever the mystery is, if I haven't figured it out before it gets to that, that's, the book automatically rises up the ranks in my mind.
Well, I'm right
Amazing.
now going to request that book because I have not read
Yes.
that one off my library app.
Yes. Go to Libby, request them right now. It's so good.
That's where I am right now.
Yeah. Use your library. That's another thing I'm always.
Please use your library.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Kathy, oh my gosh, we could talk all day about all of
No, I
these
hope that we
things.
get to, I hope I get to see you guys soon in person.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
It's been
Well,
such a joy, Kathy.
Yes.
yes,
Thank you so much.
we will for sure see you at the at WIBA's Women Behaving Boldly conference, and I'm so excited to attend your talk. Janet, what is our discount code?
Yes. So, just for podcast listeners, the conference for 22 CEUs, you guys, that you'll have access to for a year. So you won't be able to watch everything at once. So you can go back into Behavior Live and watch and get all those CEUs. You'll have access to that for a year. The regular price is $99, which is insanely affordable. $4.50 a CEU. It's just such a good deal. But for you, because you're a podcast listener, we want to have you have a special code. So when you check out, use podcast 88, and that will take your price down from $99 to $88. So again, podcast 88, just for this special group.
Thank you, Janet. It's amazing. Go to the WIBA, .com, and it's Women Behaving Boldly Conference. And this has been a special series of Behind the ABA Talk podcast with our co-host Janet Lund and our incredible speaker and guest, Kathy Fox. Again, thank you both for joining me. This has been such an amazing and inspirational conversation. And what a great way that we are sort of ending 2025, and the WIBA conference comes right at the beginning of 2026, and I just love it. Yes, I'm excited to hear about the cutting edge topics from inspiring women in the field of behavior analysis in this podcast and at the conference. So thank you all very much. And I want to just say a special shout out to my podcast producer, Cole Asher Selznick. And everybody, happy holidays, happy new year, and thank you so much.